Oh, I think I'm going. Let's see. I think I'm going. All right, all right, all right, all right. Okay, so let's go right here. What? Is this where we want to go? Yeah, it is. Okay, I had no idea. I was moaning and groaning that I couldn't get all this stuff done. Sorry about that. All right. Boom. There it is. All right. So here we go. All right. So we're looking at, looks like our first thing on the review sheet is campaign finance. And if I go right here, there it is. All right, so the Tillman Act is no corporate donation. So in the Gilded Age, the big business guys, Rockefeller, Carnegie, all that. They're just buying, and all the politicians bought and paid for. Giving them whatever they want. They're in charge of the country, really. So the Tillman Act is the first law passed by this Southern fellow, Tillman, Pitchfork Ben Tillman, saying big corporations can't donate to campaigns. Now, we know that's not, Citizens United is going to get rid of that. All right. After World War II, the Taft-Hartley Act is going to say no union donations. Taft was, the President Taft's son there, and so he doesn't want unions making campaign donations. All right. So we go down. So the first big law, kind of the whole key to all this is this FECA, Federal Election Campaign Act. It's during the Nixon years. And so you're putting limits on expenditures and donations. You got this guy, Howard Hughes, who had given lots and lots of money to Nixon. The disclosure requirements, we got to, people, the people need to know where somebody's getting his money. And then something called public financing turns out like an underdog doesn't need as much money maybe as the incumbent does, but he needs a certain amount. And so the government is going to pay for campaigns to make sure that a challenger has a certain, kind of a minimum amount of money necessary. So those four things, two limits, disclosure requirements, public financing. Okay, so then along comes first court case, Buckley versus Vallejo, and the Supreme Court says, you can't limit expenditures because expenditures are free speech. If I'm running, I spend a gajillion dollars on myself. That ain't corrupt me. That's just me kind of advertising, my ideas. But if you give me a gajillion dollars, well, then I'm going to feel obligated to kind of do what you want me to do. So the donation could be corrupting. And so the court says the FECA number 2 limit is okay. There's limits on donations, but no limits on expenditures because that's free speech. All right. See, I'm going to breathe. You can match that up. You can hit pause, match that stuff up. All right, then we go right here. So then you're looking at types of money. So what happens after FECA is you got the whack-a-mole game. The government will do something, and then, the money folks will find a way around that solution. So hard money had been limited. That's the straight donation. FECA limited hard money going straight to the candidate, the party, the interest group, and it's got to be disclosed. But these groups come up with something called soft money, where money gets spent for a get out the vote drive, and that's got to be a good thing. How could that be bad for democracy? And these things called PACs were created, which are the financial wing of interest groups. Okay, so along come McCain to save the day. So it's called the BCRA, Bipartisan Campaign Finance Reform Act, or McCain Finance Limited PAC Spending, banned the soft money. All right. Also said no outside group electioneering ads. Outside groups can't be running ads close to campaign time. All right, well, what happens? These 527s get created. So, PAC spending had been limited, but 527 spending, which is really the same thing, hadn't been limited. So those Swift Boat veterans, which was 527, same about the number on the cap, on the tax code, ran that ad against Kerry, paid for by Swift Boat veterans from Truth. And from ever since then, and some outside group runs a nasty attack ad on somebody, it's called getting Swift boated. All right, like the Swift Boat veterans did. All right, and then you see that over the years, campaigns just cost more and more and more money. Doesn't seem to be any end in sight. Okay, so then you got the fun movie story. So Michael Moore makes this liberal movie, Fahrenheit 9/11. The FEC, which monitors spending, said, hey, it's just a movie, it's not hurting anything. Then this conservative group, Citizens United, made a movie about Hillary the movie, and the FEC says, no, that violates that part of McCain-Feingold. That is electioneering close to campaign time. So Citizens United got mad, and so they sued. And the Supreme Court said, hey, they can make the movie, and no limits on any kind of spending. So you're getting rid of not just FECA stuff, BCRA stuff, but also the Tillman Act and Taft-Hartley Act. No limits on campaign spending. All right, because corporations, labor unions sue their citizens with free speech. Free speech can't be limited that way. So ever since then, there's been something called dark money, where groups can make these ads and they don't have to tell where they get the money from. And we kind of know from our movie that Nick Naylor can speak louder than a less well-financed corporation. All right, now Trump saw the problem because somehow or another through his Twitter feed and so forth, he was able to win the election even though he spent less than Clinton. All right, here's a good thing to know. It's not on there. You need a floor, not a ceiling. So limiting your spending doesn't help your challenger that much. But getting them a certain amount of funding, so creating this floor, helps them out. All right, let's look at the review sheet. So we have now taken care of everything to 527. I need to scoot that down. Linkage institutions. So these are the parties, the media, the interest groups that link the people with the government. All right, so then we're going to what? Is this it? Is this it? This is it. 138. Remember that number. Okay, then I got to find things. Interest groups. Interest groups. Boom, baby. 227, 138. 138. I'm going to write that down. Okay. All right, so interest groups are groups trying to influence the government. Lobbyists work for them because they wait out in the lobbies. All right, so if you look at the review sheet, so then you got the 4 functions. And so get ready. Dang it, that one. Here they come. All right, policies enacted. That's the number one thing. So they don't compromise like parties do. The number one goal is not power, is to get things enacted. All right, represent members of the group. So the ARP represents senior citizens, and NRA represents gun owners. Provide information and provide a way to participate. You get involved in the, they do research on the stuff and they can get you involved. So it kind of spells out RIP. All right, there's our thank you for smoking spots. Okay, so then you're looking at the influential ones. All right, so there's the 3 business ones. NAM is manufacturers, Big Business Roundtables, big business, Chamber of Commerce is small business. And business is the most active type of interest group because they're the best funded. The worker groups, the AFL-CIO, the American Bar Association of Lawyers, American Medical Associations of Doctors, NEA is the teachers. All right, National Association. And, hey, let's think about liberal and conservative. So the teachers, 3 of those are liberal. The only one that's conservative is the doctor ones. They don't like, the lawsuits that the lawyers do. All right, groups in society, NAACPs, African Americans, go through the courts. NOW is National Organization of Women. MALDEF is Latinos. ARP is senior citizens. All of those kind of left-leaning. ARP, not exactly, although they like Social Security and Medicare spending. Okay, the issue groups, the true believer groups. Christian Coalition, they're worried about values. The National Rifle Association, you know them very well. Both of those are conservative. The ACLU is more liberal, fighting for civil liberties. Okay, let me breathe. You look at that, answer those questions. So what do we say? The Women's March, that's a social movement. Me Too is a social movement. Social movements are bigger and involve coordinated activities by lots of different interest groups. All right, so why do people join interest groups? Because it could be a free ride. You could get your Social Security without joining AARP, but they give you travel benefits, so that's material incentives. Okay, solidary incentives. So NRA folks like hanging out together. All right, ideological incentives, that's the true believer stuff. Okay, so there it is. Let me breathe. Okay, and so then we've got this story about being good or bad. So Exhibit A for corrupting interest groups. This guy Abramoff, who lobbied both for and against gambling, and he took these folks golfing at St. Andrews, and these guys just feel bought and paid for. It's awfully hard for these guys to tell him no. All right, and so you've got both good and bad functions. Yeah, they fight for a cause, like we said. They're the true believers. They get you involved. Feels a little bit like Tocqueville and solving problems together. Voluntary associations last semester, the tree falls in the road and a bunch of Americans get together and chop it up rather than waiting for the government. Or bowling together. All right, keeping folks connected with each other and trusting each other. And hey, it's a good thing because it's free speech. People got to be able to express themselves. All right, one more good thing is pluralism, and like Madison's theory of things is, hey, all these interest groups kind of balance each other out because we got a big republic with lots of groups. All right, the bad side of things, elite theory. All right, a few special interests running everything, the well-funded ones, the cigarette companies, the business companies. All right, they're worried about themselves. Nick Naylor is helping the cigarette companies, not the public at large. Cancer goes up the more people smoke. All right, you add all these groups' efforts up, congressmen tell them yes, and so you got a big debt because it's easier to say yes than no, and spending goes way up. All right, there we go. All right, let's see what we got. We did not do that, so I'm going to scoop through it. I'm going to scoop through it. There we go. Next thing, the laws. All right, so if we said, remember, more people got on the, hey, they're a bad idea side of things. So you got these laws. Regulation of Lobbying Act. Hey, what's it doing? It's regulating lobbying by saying you got to register. However, a lot of people didn't register. Okay, so then the second one, you got to disclose that you're a lobbyist. And it defines lobbyist, 20% of your time, getting paid, spending money, a lot of money. Okay, the most recent effort, honest leadership, open government, saying Abramoff can't take people golfing, and then the revolving door. I need to put revolving door on there. So you can't go back and forth between K Street and Congress, revolve thing. Look at that. If only I could spell. All right. And there it goes. All right, and there it goes. We didn't do this. I hadn't decided what to do about that. All right, but we did do this. So then the activities. All right, hey, they lobby. All right, phone calls, meetings, emails. They're going to testify. We need to talk about that. You can lobby the implementation of policies with the executive branch, such as Title IX. Okay, you got the inside game and the outside game. The leaders would rather you call them and email them. They would rather you not go marching and hating on them in the media. Okay, you can lobby the courts by writing these amicus curiae briefs or by bringing the case itself. So NAACP sued school systems, and that's how Brown versus Board of Education came about. All right, and in election time, hey, they try to get people to run. They pay for ads, 527s and so forth. The soft money they get out the vote drives, rating candidates. The NRA gives A to one candidate and F to somebody else, and then the PACs make the campaign contributions. All right, so there's that. Let me stop and breathe. And then I believe we got one more on interest groups, and then we just got two Congress things. All right, here it is. Hey, you need good leaders. Frederick Douglass was leader of the American Anti-Slavery Society. Southern Christian Leadership Conference, led by Martin Luther King. Christian Coalition, led by Pat Robertson. So these folks are good at their job, and they help their groups be more successful. Money. The more money you got, business groups do well. All right. These charities pay for groups. Ford Foundation. All right. And like we said, you want a lot of members. All right. And wealthier, more educated folks have more of a sense of, I think last semester we talked about efficacy, that they can make a difference, so they're more likely to get involved. All right. Sometimes it turns out that the leadership is either the leadership's a little more extreme than the voter in the middle. So the ARP is pretty liberal, even though your average senior citizen might be maybe center right. The NEA is very liberal, even though your average teacher here at Calhoun is probably a Republican. What did we say? The NRA more conservative than the average gun owner. All right. Boom. All right. That's it. Okay, so what will we do? So we got two others. So let's go to, I think I wrote it down, 138. Let me go to 138 and see if that's right. 140. All right, so look at there. All right, so here's how a bill becomes a law. PowerPoint version. I don't like it as well as I do writing it down, but hey, in each side gets introduced. All right, it goes to a committee where they have hearings, TDDAV. The subcommittee is going to have the hearings, testimony, debate, amend, vote. All right, so the subcommittee hearings. All right. It'll go back to committee, hearings, testimony, debate, amend, vote. All right, and remember on the House side, you got the Rules Committee, where there's an open rule. You can talk a long time, you can make a lot of amendments. Closed rule, you can't change it all. Modified, no riders. In other words, the amendments have to be on the same subject as the bill. All right. So on the House floor, I don't know when I'll have a picture. DAV. All right, debate, amend, vote, and then it goes to the Senate. All right, on the Senate side, same deal. Committee, hearing, testimony, debate, amend, vote. All right, then you go to the committee, hearing, testimony, debate, amend, vote. All right, then it goes to the Senate floor. No rules committee, but you got the filibuster. There's our old friend, Georgia Senator Richard Russell, and he's fighting against the Civil Rights Act. So that was the record filibuster. All right, and you need a 3/5 vote to invoke cloture and to stop a filibuster. All right, so which means you need 60 votes to pass a bill in the Senate. Remember when Ted Kennedy died and we watched that film on Obamacare, the Democrats only had 59. All right. So then we put it together. So you did two separate bills. So in other words, like right now on reopening the government, the Senate is going to pass some version of Trump's bill, and the House is going to pass something that Pelosi comes up with, most likely. Then they'll have to see if they can make a compromise in the conference committee. All right, where they debate it and they vote on it. They can't change it. You might have two different bills again. All right, so then there's what the president can do. He signs it's a law. He vetoes. It goes back to each house. 2/3 vote override the veto. If he does nothing, that's a pocket veto if Congress goes out of session within 2 days. 10 days, my fault. All right, so then you go down to our story of the incumbents. All right, let's see if we can tell this story in about 5 minutes. Okay, let's look up at the review sheet. All right, and we go down. So we're going to get rid of that history one, even though that's good. All right, which means, hey, on my version of this, all I got is the left-hand side. All right, so we did how a bill becomes law. All right, so then we're finally looking at, not that. Hey, the jungle. Where did it go? Not that again. There it is. Okay. Congress is hated, but we like Tom Graves. Incumbents is somebody like Tom Graves who is in office. So how do they do it? Number one, name recognition. You've heard of them, you vote for them. Constituency service. They help you with your problem. They give you a recommendation to get in the Naval Academy. Franking, that's free mail and PAC money, always goes to the incumbent. Hey, when they use that free mail, they can advertise all the good stuff they've done. All right, credit claiming, some goes well. They say, hey, I did that. I was in on that. Take positions that are popular, even, hey, if nothing gets done. All right, pork. Remember those two from Obama's deal? The Louisiana Purchase, the Cornhusker kickback. They didn't change their mind on Obamacare. They got money for their district. Then their support was kind of bought by Obama there. All right, this spending goes to some sort of project that helps them at home stay popular. All right, so there's a little table showing that incumbents get reelected at very high rates. Okay, would you run against an incumbent? And hey, let's take a look at that, especially in the House. Now, the senators and governors are not quite as close to their constituents, so they can't quite do as many favors for them. So the reelection rate, while high, is not quite as high. House is where you really see that. Okay, experience, quality candidates who've served before know not to run against an incumbent, so the quality candidates don't run. So Tom Graves had this guy in jail running against him. What quality candidates will do, like Jesse Bone did, is wait for an open seat when there's not an incumbent to run against. All right, and then you got this last little thing. So, and we're working our way, we know, to gerrymandering. So a safe seat, most seats are safe. About 100 seats are competitive, could be won by either party. A lot of seats are occasionally competitive if somebody retires. Okay, every 10 years you take the census. Some states, when the reapportionment comes, get more seats. Some states get less. And so the redistricting is when the new districts are drawn based on that reapportionment. The funky shape of those things is the gerrymandering, named after Elbridge Gerry way back when. And gerrymandering is legal, so you're trying to benefit mainly your party, maybe an incumbent or a group. It's legal as long as the districts are contiguous. When we say group, on occasion you'll see districts that seem to be drawn to help out African Americans. Sometimes white Republicans will work with African American Democrats to maximize both Republican and African American representation in a strange way. Okay, so how does anybody ever lose? Well, you cast a controversial vote like poor old Blanche Lincoln did. All right, you get in trouble, some sort of scandal, financial or a sex scandal. All right, 5 influences on a person's vote. Well, they're going to look at what the party does. Log rolling is when party members do favors for each other. They're going to look at what their constituents want. What are the constituents calling in and saying? What the polls say, what the interest groups want, and then lastly, and probably least importantly, what they believe. There's not that many trustees out there. It's what? Admirable to be a trustee, but probably if you're a trustee for very long, you lose your job. Okay, so what hurts them? A tough issue, a scandal, and then finally the midterm effect. President's party does badly. We look there, 40 seats for Trump. It's kind of one of the worst, but it's certainly not close to the worst midterm effect. And the reason for the midterm effect is there's no alternative to the man in office. Trump can't say, hey, at least I'm better than Hillary.
Pardon this interruption. Luke Worley and Vivian Funez, please report to the attendant's office.
Last one. All right, according to that book, Big Sword, it's not the politicians drawing the districts, it's us, that we kind of choose our communities, and these communities that we choose sort us into liberal and conservative bubbles.
Pardon this interruption. Luke Mosley, please report to the attendant's office. Luke Mosley.
So the effect of it all is, certain communities tend to be liberal. Certain communities tend to be conservative. Really, the swing communities are the suburban communities. As you get farther out, you're more likely to become Republican. As you get farther into the city, more likely to be Democrat. So it's more communities than it is swing states. All right, and it's bad for us because we don't want to hear, we're all in this echo chamber where we don't want to hear anybody who is in any way different from us. And the danger for somebody like Tom Graves is not that he'll be too conservative and a Democrat will challenge him. It's that he'll be too moderate and a more conservative Republican will challenge him in the primary. So it's called getting primaried. So the pressure on our leaders is to move to the extreme. So the moral of the story is they won't cooperate with each other because it's not in their political interest to cooperate with each other. They won't, it would be a good thing to do to compromise, to reopen the government. It also might be very politically dangerous for them to do. So that makes their behavior understandable. All right. And that's it. All right, let's see what we can do with this.